how do you measure inspiration? It's a really difficult question that I've talked about a little bit on my podcast with Daniel from Glass. Since rapidly developing and working on Insight, I have really tried to ask myself this question. Is this tool that I'm building adding to my creative process or distracting and sort of taking away and creating essentially a worse result for me as a photographer? Well, there's a few ways I think you can generally measure inspiration, and that is by seeing your work evolve over time, which one method I highly recommend is to print your images out and put them all on the floor in front of you and see over the years how your work evolves. Another one would be to simply write things down. I'm actually a really avid journaler. I love journaling, and though I don't use it to really measure much directly, it is amazing to go back to old journal posts from years ago and see posts, just really old entries that I had actually forgotten about, and measure myself against what my thoughts and feelings are now and see a clear growth, or maybe a clear not growth in some ways. Insight is a tool that literally is meant to be a new creative input, and it's something I've been building over the past 3 months. Way back in early May, I recorded the first sort of proof of concept video that I ended up calling Insight In, which was just the idea of seeing if there was any way that as a photographer you could leverage these new tools with AI-generated images to help you during a shoot. I simply wanted to see if I could send it an image from my iPhone and get an output and then have a new creative idea or direction that I otherwise might not have thought about during the shoot. That first video was literally just using my iPhone and trying to mix and match where my lens on my iPhone camera was relative to my actual lens that I was shooting with, and all kinds of stuff. It ended up just being sort of behind the scenes video of the things I think about with lighting and some of the more creative tools like a Prism or a Ring of Fire. But the seed of the idea was planted in my head, and by I think the third week in June, I completely figured out the entire workflow of how to be actively shooting with your professional camera. As you're shooting, you can hit literally just one or up, depending on the camera body, up to 2 buttons. And as you're reviewing your images, send those directly to an app or workflow or tool that I'm building called Insight, and get the results back directly to your watch or iPhone, depending on what you own and what you're comfortable using, in less than a minute. The amazing thing about this is that as soon as you've selected the image, one or many, you can send multiples at a time, that you want to send, you can get right back into shooting. You don't have to sit there and wait for it to come back. You will get a notification within a minute of when those renderings start to formulate. And once I figured out that that entire workflow was practical in a way that wasn't going to take me out of the client interaction, where a lot of what you do as a photographer isn't actually the photography, right? It's the relationship building. It's the setting people up to make them comfortable with your phrasing and direction. All of that cannot be impeded or, derailed because I'm sitting here trying to get an app working on my phone. And Insight absolutely does not get in the way. So I'm recording this video right now in late August, and the video that you're about to see was me testing Insight with this new workflow in Paris mid-July. Even since this video is recorded, I have streamlined a ton more of the workflow and actually evolved the Insight product massively. I've officially confirmed that Insight works with Canon, Nikon, and Sony bodies. In fact, though I'm primarily a Canon shooter, I think it might work even better on Nikon and Sony than Canon right now, which is kind of amazing. Notifications come directly as a text message. Insight is much more secure in that any image I send to it has a certain degree of facial blurring, so that everything that does get sent to the generative AI has a bit of anonymity behind the actual likeness of who you're sending images to. It does portrait versus landscape orientation direction. It can literally detect the number of people in your image and output a curated generation based on no people in the shot, 1 person solo, 2 people in the photo, or 3 or more as in like a group shot. You can also let me know ahead of time what style of photography you trend toward, if it's documentary or lifestyle or more of a glamour look or fashion, all these different things. I think I'm going to narrow it down to maybe the top 5 or 6 most common ones. And you can get a special curated output specifically for your style and genre of photography. And I've been building literally all of this out completely by myself. So testing it has been really interesting. I have sent it to a few people for testing, but the service is coming offline and online and offline so much that I haven't really been able to roll it out for testing yet, but that is going to come soon. I'm absolutely going to roll this out to my patrons first, probably those that are in my workshop tier. Then I will roll it out to my other patron tier, and then I will roll it out to the general public, any photographer that wants to use this as a service. And it took me about a month to realize this really needed to be rolled out as a service. At some point, I do plan to publish a tutorial of exactly how I've created all of this stuff. So if you are very technically inclined, you could actually do this yourself. But at the end of the day, it actually cost me as an individual about $175 a month in various services to get all of this to work together. And by rolling it out to more than just me, we can actually drop that down to $45, maybe even $35 for everyone to have about 100 renders a month, something like that. I'm still messing around with the math. It's going to be really tricky. But if you're interested in trying this, you can go to this RSVP page. It's linked in the description of this video, and you will be notified as soon as it's rolled out in the various stages that I'm planning on doing it. But just to give you a peek of the number of renders, I have probably used this at about a dozen shoots now, and rendered certainly in an area of 600, 700 images. And without a doubt, though it does take some practice, this is an entirely new creative input. Without a doubt, it has had a positive effect on my ideas that are surfacing to the top of mind during client sessions. And those ideas are extremely applicable because Insight renders based on your source image. So your focal length that you're using is accurately captured and represented. The bokeh, if you have any, the bone structure of your clients and their body types, your colors, the style and color of your clothing, and more, I think most importantly, the quality of light that they're using. So the results you get back from Insight are extremely applicable compared to what I first thought of the most similar thing. Maybe you could relate to this as being like a really advanced prompt card or Pinterest style board. It is light years ahead of that because the results are so applicable. And it's the first thing I've ever built that I've never seen that exists in the world that is really just being built by me right now. I'm taking my time and just making sure this is something worthwhile that is making a meaningful difference. Is it actually changing my methodology? Is it helping me? And letting you, the photographer, judge for yourself if you see exactly how this is unfolding, because these are largely unedited behind the scenes shoots, just me talking through my workflow and my mindset in the moment. So this next one is Insight in Paris. It's again with my friend Chloe, who is amazing. Use the link in the description if you want to sign up to be just on the notification list. You're not going to be marketed to or anything like that. It's just to be notified when things are rolled out. So I'll be back soon with another one. And as always, thank you so much for your attention. Bye, everyone. The entire concept of this is sort of reapproaching what Chloe and I actually tried 2 months-ish ago. Was that in May? In Prague, here in Paris. And it's the idea of being actively working in a session, whether it be an individual, a couple, doesn't really matter what. Oh, great. I think that was actual bird crap. Anyway, being actively working and seeking out some new novel way of getting an idea, right? One of the most recent tools that has really fascinated me, basically the entire last year, are all of these generative AI tools like Midjourney or what Photoshop does, where it literally taps a database of millions of images and synthesizes a totally brand new graphical thing that oftentimes can look very photorealistic. So what I've done is create an entire workflow that I'm not going to explain in this video other than just demo it and kind of put it to the test to see if it actually does help me and make a difference in my work. At some point, I'm going to compare the collection of photos we made in Prague to the collection of photos that we make today. Obviously, it's a different shooting location and it's sunrise, so it's going to be really, really beautiful. But I guess we shot around sunset in Prague, so it's not going to be that different. So we'll kind of go through the process a few times, I'm sure, but the way I've got it set up, and only certain cameras are going to do this really well compared to others, is the Canon R3, as I'm shooting, is connected to an FTP server, basically the same thing that hosts my website. I can review any image in camera, and I can do one at a time or I can do multiples. All I have to do is hit the set button, and it sends a JPEG small too, so the smallest JPEG possible over a hotspot that's sitting in my camera bag. So it's already sent. It's sending that JPEG, it's unedited, just as you see on the back of the camera, to my FTP server, which is then triggering a whole bunch of automated workflows that are sending a pre-written prompt, which I'll post somewhere in the video, maybe here, and the image to Midjourney. After about a minute, I'll start getting notifications on my watch and my phone that the Midjourney render is ready, and hopefully it will have some interesting novel visualization of a fake person that looks similar to Chloe, doing something, different as far as a pose or compositional, or maybe even like the use of light. It's going to output 4 different options for each image that I send it, and that's it. It works really, really well as far as the speed and efficiency. The key test for this is going to be if it's more of like a distraction while I'm shooting, or if it actually does inspire a new idea for me. So that's where we're at, and we're just waiting for the sun to rise. So it's just a few more minutes. So I'm going to be a little heavier in the beginning of this with sending images to the AI, just so that it starts to turn around really quickly. But the basics of what I'm looking for in a scene are never going to change, I don't think. It always has to start with the directionality of the light, which is all kind of flooding from this direction over here, which is why I'm kind of having her back up to the darker light absorbing trees and shadows over there. And we'll probably kind of work sort of this way. As the sun rises, we'll see if it actually does something cool or not, but it's pretty cloudy. Beautiful. Love that. Perfect. Okay, so I only took maybe 5 or 6 pictures. I'm just gonna start transferring all of those now. And then after about 2 minutes, it'll start pumping me ideas, hopefully. Ooh, I love that. Beautiful. Okay. So I just pulled back to get some slightly wider shots. I'm gonna send some of those. Can we go down the steps just a bit? We'll get a little lower. Ooh, I love that. Ooh, kind of just the one eye that you were doing? Yep. Perfect. Okay, so there's some of the initial results from the shooting down low and back at her, which is not too different, except that I do kind of like the turning of the head being a little more extreme. And then let's see what else. I think I got a few more results here. Ooh, I like the arms behind her back. I can't remember if you were doing that. I think you were. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's another series. Okay. And it's doing a really good job of recreating the lighting conditions, which is really nice, and the clothing that she's wearing. There's a lot of decisions I make in composition and posing has to do with the color that somebody's wearing as well, and how I want to place them in the scene. Okay, and then here's the results from what we just took. That really only took like 2 minutes, maybe. So since we're still here, I think we can try and do something. The hands are always so freaky looking. But again, the goal here isn't to recreate this exactly or even use these in any way that the clients would see. It's just for my own mind to kind of take a different perspective. And actually, are you okay maybe using that pole as kind of something to lean against, and so it's not so symmetrical? And then I want to switch lenses. So I'm switching now to a 14, which is way, way wide. The first lens I was using was the 50. So totally different things, and hopefully the AI render is going to look appropriately different with these. Okay, can we recenter? Ooh, wait, I kind of liked what you were doing. Yeah, that's awesome. Can you see that? It's just cute. Just did like a little bubble. That's actually totally unrelated to this entire topic. One of my favorite things about the Canon R3 or all the Canon mirrorless stuff is if you want somebody to be able to see themselves, they can like instantly just do that. What I really want is another screen on the back so I can keep taking photos while they look at themselves, but nobody listens to me. Okay, perfect. Just a few more. Okay, I'm gonna pick a few of those to send. We'll wait a minute and then we'll move on. Okay, but I am liking some of these results here. Just in terms of posing, this is where she was, I think, it's coming from when she was sitting more off to the side instead of straight on. These are still from the 50 millimeter that I was using. The ultra wide will come through in a second, but it is nudging me in a way to get her to interact maybe more kind of just resting hands into face or something like that. The other reason I really like having Chloe for this is that this is a very out of my normal wheelhouse approach. Like I usually have a couple to pose, and it's a totally different interaction when you have two human bodies. When it's one person by themselves, for me, I'm just not used to creating a dynamic array of poses with just hands in their face or something like that. With a couple, usually one person in the couple will do something like unexpected for me to latch onto and kind of take things in a new direction. It's a lot harder for me to do with just one person. Okay, there's a few others, but I just want to see the 14 real quick. So it is adapting the perspective to be very similar to the actual lens I'm using without me having to type anything in or do anything, which is nice. Let's see, where, maybe just here, if you want to, is that enough room to sit and or maybe like elbow up on this thing while seated? That'd be cool. We relocated and we have a few images that I got back, and it's actually from the ultra wide lens, but it only really inspired me to change something with the pose, not the perspective. And what I really found interesting was this one pose where she suddenly has 6 fingers and she's pointing to the sky. But I like playing around with the directionality of fingers to kind of draw your eye to the frame, especially if you have a finger sort of pointing. Your eye is going to kind of align vertically, and that just creates a really nice shape. So we'll see if we can, I've already shown Chloe sort of the 6-fingered. If you could just grow an extra finger for me. Yes, that has nothing to do with it, but we'll see if it actually works. Okay. So this silver line is cutting your head off compositionally, which is fine. You can stay there, but you just kind of need to lean like really down into it so that, yeah, just, again, none of this process or this tool is going to make up for the basics of composition in the way that I like to shoot, right? Ooh, perfect. I like that. Great, hold that. And then just, yeah, exactly. Lower your finger just a bit. There we go. Beautiful. I love that. That's good. And then maybe just eyes somewhere else, anywhere, if you want to just kind of explore with that. Yep. Beautiful. Okay, and then just sweep your hair a little. Perfect. Ooh, I love that. Good. Okay, and then I think we're good here. Let's move on to the next thing. I am noticing, so I have this set up to give me notifications of these images all the way to my watch, and that's way too distracting. So I'm gonna turn that off and never use that again. That is so annoying. Not disturb, whatever. I'm switching to my other workhorse lens, which is a 24 1.4. I'm gonna rip off a few just kind of wide perspective shots, a few tighter ones, and then send those off, and then just keep shooting as I would until I start getting these back. See what happens. Sending one of these. Maybe left arm, yeah, something like that. Ooh, okay, I'm liking... There was a photo the AI gave me that had her hand sort of extended. Can you do one kind of, I just want to get really close to the lens. Yeah, that's beautiful. Perfect. Can you do maybe just one leg extended or something just to, yep. Thanks, awesome. Here's this one in the upper left corner is what motivated me to get her, again, leaning more into the pole with her hand closer to the camera. It looks really silly in the AI render, but it doesn't have to do more than just trigger an inspiration in my head to apply it in the actual real photo. Since this is similar enough to the other side, it's got a different color, it's a little more open air, but it's fundamentally sort of the same horizon line of this fence with trees on top. I'm just gonna take a quick peek at the photos I sent from over there. Ooh, I like this one pose where her arm's completely hanging off the back side of the fence and one in the front. That's an interesting idea. And then I kind of like the balance and parallelness of two hands just floating in front. So this is, yeah, giving me some starting points. Let's see what happens. I like that. That's perfect. That's beautiful. Love that. Let's get back to the open air since people aren't in the way quite as much. Awesome. Okay, and then can we do one actually Yeah, that's kind of funny. Oh my God, I can actually see your eye through that. I don't know if it'll focus. Hold on. Cool. So this one I am struggling compositionally to get something cool. So I'm really excited to see if it actually comes up with something unique. All right, I'm gonna stop down my aperture, go a little higher with my ISO. So I am noticing, because even though it's only about a minute, my typical approach to shooting is a lot of momentum, moving from one location to the next very, very quickly. And that doesn't do me a ton of good if, I need some inspirational thing that has a similar quality of light or directionality of light. If it's just surfacing a new pose idea, that's very useful almost anywhere, but I am finding some hesitancy with wanting to move on to the next thing before I check what the AI did with it. This is really funny. Look how intimate with the interesting. I don't think it's surfacing anything that I want to use, but I'm surprised it didn't make anything more bizarre than that. That's okay. Ooh, the clouds are starting to be cool. This has a lot of horizontal lines and it's very, very simple compositionally. So I'm going to send one of these and check it before we move on to the next. That's interesting. This one made it look like I don't think I'm going to use it, but it's just interesting to see. It's crazy drugged up looking.
This one or
the top one? Yeah, just kind of crossed and had kind of whatever. I don't know how to describe that. But for this, I think I like where you're standing. Perfect. Just gonna send a few of these. So come kind of right to the edge here. Yeah. Interesting. So much symmetry. Perfect. I love all that. And then I just want to do one more with this cool arrow somehow. Oh, that's so weird. Beautiful. Good. All right. You good?